Hi, my name is Ingle-Fernandez, and today I would like to discuss the effects of global warming on bird migrations. For my capstone action this year, I conducted a survey in which 10 questions were asked to gauge not only the interest, but also the knowledge about the topic of global warming and bird migrations. So after looking at the data from this survey, I realized that not many people are knowledgeable about not only the impacts that global warming has on birds, but what those effects are on us. And so I wanted to talk about the effects of global warming on bird migrations and how those effects on bird migrations affect us as humans and as a society. So I think the most apparent thing with global warming, regardless of species, is that certain species become extinct as a result of rising temperatures, and the birds are no exception. Over the past 100 years, 130 of 10,000 North American species have gone extinct because of global warming. Additionally, the way in which their migrations are affected is that they're moving more towards the poles. They're moving polewards to get away from the rising equatorial temperatures. And you might be wondering, how does that affect us as a society? How do birds migrating more north or south have any impact on us? Well, the main thing is that a lot of agricultural settlements are on the equator. They're near the equator. That's where most of the fertile land is. And birds have a great impact on agriculture. They spread seeds so one of the main things that they do is they spread seeds to places that formerly didn't have seeds, increasing the biodiversity there. So having more biodiversity is just a great thing for any species, any ecosystem regardless. And so this helps more plants flourish, but also birds act as a natural pesticide. They get rid of pests, they eat pests, and this allows farmers to use less pesticides. So it saves them money, but it also makes the food less contaminated with pesticides. And also, farmers nowadays using a lot of pesticides, there are a lot of adverse effects that have been seen using pesticides. For example, Agent Orange, which was an herbicide used in the Vietnam War, that has been linked to Parkinson's and Alzheimer's and a bunch of psychological diseases as a result of the use. A not very well-known impact that birds have is through the bird watching industry. So many think that the bird watching industry isn't that big and that not much money comes from it, but actually $14 billion a year in the United States alone comes from bird watching. Now, obviously, this mostly constitutes like hotels, gas, and restaurants and areas that people would use for bird watching, but still, that is an absolutely astronomical amount. And this revenue is actually a major part of developing countries and can help foster economic growth. Another interesting effect that I found while I was researching is these things called bird strikes. Now, bird strikes are when birds hit a plane while they're in the air. And these can be catastrophic and has even led to planes having to emergency land in lakes in the United States. And so, as the bird migrations are changing because of global warming, aviation companies are having to pour billions of dollars into research to find out how these migrations are changing and so that they can alter their schedules and their flight trajectories so that they don't have as much bird strikes. The last two effects that I wanted to point out that birds have on our society are purely environmental. And so one of them is that birds have actually been found to be instrumental in tropical rainforest reforestation because they get rid of the biomass that are infecting trees and killing them. And so they are integral to that effort. Another thing that they do is that without them, certain ecosystems have been found to become deserts, which is desertification. So they are vital creatures to areas that are susceptible to desertification, which is a lot of places. So now I wanted to talk about the possible solution to this issue. So obviously to get rid of the effects that global warming has on birds is to get rid of global warming itself. Now obviously this is a very difficult and maybe impossible task, but we can definitely negate the effects in the future. And so the main way to do this is to limit the amount of carbon emissions that we have and implementing renewable energy sources. Now, some economists, businessmen, political parties have all stated that implementing renewable energy sources and replacing them with the ones that we've known forever that emit carbon is a way to economic disaster. However, the recent years have shown that this is completely false. From 2014 to 2016, the global economy grew 6.5%, while global carbon emissions remain constant. So this shows that we don't have to increase global carbon emissions. We don't have to use these sources that emit carbon in order for our economy to grow. And actually, we can cut carbon emissions and still grow, as evidenced by Britain, who cut its carbon emissions from 2004 to 2014 and still had 27% economic growth. So we can make that transition. While one industry falters, i.e. the non-renewable energy sources such as coal, gas, things like that are completely ruining our environment, another one takes the lead and takes that void and can grow. And we've already seen this through the solar energy industry that employs 250,000 Americans in 9,000 solar companies in the United States alone. So it's already an emerging business with thousands of jobs and opportunities for growth. So obviously we've already made decent strides, but we're nowhere near where we need to be. In 2014, greenhouse gas emissions totaled 6.8 billion tons of carbon dioxide, and only 1.1 million of those tons were being offset by the solar industry. So obviously we need more alternative energy sources and just bigger industries within those alternative energy sources, or else this issue is never going to get resolved and things are just going to get worse and worse and worse and worse. And we need to act fast because these birds, these creatures, are absolutely integral to our society, as evidenced by the many different effects that I stated today. If we don't mitigate these effects, they will be catastrophic in the future, and our children, or maybe our grandchildren, or maybe even our children will have to live with these effects. So I ask you today to please try to make a difference in global warming and do your part. Lobby your government. Vote for people who believe in global warming. Vote for people who will take a stand on global warming. And try to get this issue resolved, because ultimately this is our planet at stake. And we need to protect our planet at all costs. Thank you.